Okay, let's mix some drums on the UI16. First thing I'm going to do is get the gain set. So let's go to the kick drum. I like right around minus 12 dB. Oh my. Let's get that under control. Want it peaking right around 12. That looks pretty good. Let's get the snare drum. Oops. Still a bit high. That's pretty good. And the hi-hat. All right. Gain looks pretty good. Let's see what we have. Let's bring up the kick. Bring up the snare. And the hi-hat. Let's save this for later. Actually sounds pretty good the way it is, but we're going to tweak them. And I'll start this over again, and we're going to look at just the kick drum first. Okay, let's mute the snare, the hat. Now we got just the kick. And the drummer you're listening to, Gary, is a good drummer. He knows how to tune his drums. So I'm not hearing a lot of ring out of the drum, but let's just go through the edit and start with the EQ. First thing I would do is pull this severe bottom end out. You don't need to hear that. I like to hear a little bit of thump in the drum, and that's usually a boost. Some here down around 80 hertz, you know, give it a boost. You can check it out. I'm getting a nice thump out of that, I think. And if you want, you know, you want to hear more pedal hitting the thing, you could come over and add some high end. Purely to your taste. I usually don't mess too much with the presets on the EQ because I understand EQ and I kind of know what I want. Okay, that sounds like a pretty good EQ setting. Let's move on to dynamics. Now I don't hear any ring really in the kick, but we do have a gate. The UI16 has a very simple gate, and what that does, that just turns the channel on and off depending on the strength of the signal. If you were getting some ring, you could use the gate to cancel that out. You can also use the gate to cancel out some of that background noise. You're still going to hear it when the gate's open. But that tightens up the kick and gets rid of a lot of the noise. I also like to have a little bit of compression on the drums. And I am going to go to the presets for the compression. And see if we can find a kick drum. There's a kick drum right there. I'm going to load that in. Sounds pretty good already. I like to have about 3 to 4 of these little things going. And I guess the reason I use the preset is it gives you the kind of the industry standard for the attack and release time, which honestly, I play with those sometimes and don't hear any difference. They've also added just a touch of makeup gain for what they've got here. I might bring this threshold down just a touch, but I think I can live with that for kick drum. So let me get started over again and we'll move on to the snare drum. And again, you can tweak this to your heart's content. Okay, let's move on to the snare. Gonna mute the kick, unmute the snare. And let's go through what we can do with the snare. EQ. Again, I'm going to pull out some of that bottom end. And if I wanted to fatten the snare up a little bit, I might boost it. And you can move this around. That's not bad. Dynamics, again, you can gate this. Until you're hearing just the snare. Maybe a little more. Presets for the compressor. I'll bet they have a snare drum. Oh, they got a couple of them. Okay, I think I can live with that one. Let's pull the threshold down, get a little compression happening on that snare. Again, I'm looking for 3 to 4 of the little blocks over here. That sounds good, and it doesn't even need really any makeup gain. Let's go back to the mix. And with the snare drum, you're going to want to have some effects on the snare drum. So we're looking at the snare. We're going to edit. We're going to go to effect sends. The effect on the UI that's really meant for the drums is the room effect. So let's pull that up. And then we'll have to experiment to see what we like. There's not a whole lot of options on the reverb and so forth. But let's just go back and listen to what the default reverb sounds like. Since he starts playing the snare again, that is. That's a very, very kind of tight reverb. Not bad. And again, this is your taste. There are so many things you can do with the reverb. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, we got all kinds of presets. If you want to choose. You ever wonder what your snare drum would sound like in your bathroom? Well, we could find out. I guess we're going to have to start the song over again, though. So we'll move on to the snare reverb thing next. Okay, we were on the snare drum. We were talking about the different reverbs. So let's have a look. This is the default room. Really, all these presets are different settings for these things. It's not like you have a plate and you have a hall and you have so forth. Really, all you can do is tweak these. If you select a different one of these, it's just going to move these dials around. Is what's going to happen. So let's go back to the default and see what the sliders do. The time is kind of how big the reverb is. If you've got a slow song, you might want a nice big reverb. Something like this, you probably don't want a real big reverb. Your high-pass filter and your low-pass filter kind of set the range. In other words, your low-pass filter is going to pass, say, everything below whatever frequency it says. So we can kind of cut out the top end if we want. And the high-pass filter does the opposite. It passes everything above the frequency. So you kind of got a bottom and a top for your reverb. And all I can suggest is that you play with this until you find something you like. One thing I wish it did have was pre-delay, but we don't have that. So I can live with that. Let's go back to the mix. And let's bring in the kit to see what we have. That's not bad. Okay, we're ready to bring the hat in. And again, the only thing you might want to do, possibly, is play with the gate. Yeah, maybe a little more. Anyway, that's the basics of starting a drum mix. And again, do stuff to your taste. Now, normally you'd be doing this before the show in a line check or a sound check. I don't have a drummer here or a drum set, so this is as close as I could come to simulating what I would do. Play with it. You know, if it does, turn it on. If it doesn't work, turn it off. It's a great thing about sitting out front and doing sound. So anyway, hopefully you picked up some tips on the features of this thing. We're all still learning. Thanks for watching.